So I'm originally from Norway, Michigan, just a small town in the UP, and I moved here in August of 2020.
And roughly how many people live there? What's the population?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head, maybe 1,000, 1,500. I could look to give you an exact number, but it's not very big. Compared to Charlotte, yeah, Mooresville's definitely a small town, but for me, it's still fairly large.
And tell me again how old you are?
20. Like for me in high school, like I enjoyed going to school. I guess, I always like to be around friends, and, I had a lot of friends, and even from different schools, so, I enjoyed high school. I played basketball in the wintertime, but come, the springtime and even the fall, I was more focused on, getting a race car ready for races in the weekend, or in springtime, building it. And I had a couple buddies that were in the same class as me, and they'd come over. It was more focused on that, but school was definitely of importance because my mom always pushed school. But yeah, like we spent a great amount of time, it was a 12-month of the year process to get it ready, and it was coming down here was like an eye-opener because you're always, every stuff's changing all the time. You're always on it. But I think from where, what we did, we were still put as much effort in as everybody else does down here. I wouldn't say regrets. There was, I definitely missed out on, like parties and school dances and stuff, but looking back on that now, like, it is what it is kind of thing, I did some stuff, like, towards like especially with COVID, but like my junior and senior year, there really wasn't much going on as far as racing. We raced a lot, but, I still had time to enjoy school, and the stuff that came with school. Like close friends, yeah, I think so. But as a mass, majority group, I think most people do. I hope they do, because when I was a kid, that's all really I wanted to do was kind of just focus on racing, and people kind of looked at me funny because they really didn't get it at first, but seeing where I'm at now, I think they finally understand it. I love it. I don't have to, I can set my own rules, my own schedules for everything. I enjoy living by myself.
And do you have a dating life?
Oof. Not yet. We don't want to put down on there. When I go home, I have, what I mean? Like, I wouldn't say dating life, but I have a lot of friends at home that I still not talk to, but.
Do you think your racing disease gets in the way of that?
I don't think so. Because, if you look at it, like, you either enjoy what that person's doing or you don't, type deal. And that's the same thing for football, basketball, baseball, there's all different sorts of ways to look at it, and I don't think it does, but.
Do you ever think about what your legacy is going to be, either personally or professionally, when you're dead and gone?
Sometimes, not as much really, because there's, like I have so much more to build on, but there's sometimes I think about it. I definitely, like, back home, I think people will look up to me as like, hey, you can be like him and you don't have to stay here, you can leave and go do what you want, type deal. I see it now, but I look at it as you have to enjoy what you're doing or you're not gonna like doing it. You know what I mean? I enjoy coming here and learning stuff and working on the cars and other things, and that goes for anybody else. Like you could want to sit behind a computer all day at an office job in a cubicle. That's gonna do the same thing, but if that's what you like, that's all you. You know what I mean?
Are your parents still married?
No, I have a stepdad. He's married to my mom, but my mom and dad were never married.
And are all of your parents, are they proud of you?
Oh yeah, I think so. I'm pretty positive they are. I'd always, calling them all the time. It's cool to see that you realize that I made it. You know what I mean? Because to them, that's all I ever wanted to do was to come down here. So it's cool to talk to them and see that I made it.
Truck chassis. One of Bill's customers. Make it roll and put a body on it. And then another bin full of red parts, and then dropping off a bin full of parts that need to be made red. Probably I don't need to be the guy that's picking it up, but whatever time it takes for me to go get it, I can just make that time up at night, because I'm gonna be there anyway. So that's how I look at it until we get all the processes streamlined. If I'm the guy that needs to go get it, I'll go get it and figure out how to get the time back another way. Somewhere along the way, he raced at a racetrack called Atlantic Speedway, and my mom would take us as kids to the track. Somewhere along the way, my mom had an interest in photography, and I was young, so I'm telling you how I remember it. Facts might not be accurate. I remember our laundry room being a dark room for developing pictures. And her and Dad started making, doing the programs for the racetrack, taking the pictures each week and filling out the programs with the sponsors and articles and whatnot. That was back when racetracks had programs. And, my dad was always involved in racing. Like me, it was his passion, so he worked a full-time job at a company called Hermie Electronics, and then nights and weekends building cars and fixing cars for people, and somehow, one way or another, his passion kind of maybe turned into a passion for my mom on the other side of the industry. And she's a people person for sure, and a go-getter and a manager, and a type of you make stuff happen, you don't wait for it to happen personality. And I don't know how it happened or why it happened, but at some point she ended up managing a racetrack in Truro, Nova Scotia called Onslow Speedway, and I would have been, I don't know, 10ish, maybe 11, and I would walk through the grandstands selling soda and chips and popcorn and things like that. And then when I don't know if she quit or it closed down, and I don't know that time frame, but it shut down. But I don't know if it shut down after she wasn't there, or it shut down and that's why she wasn't there. I don't remember the details there, but then after that she went on to manage Scotia Speed World, which is, by now I'm getting old enough to start wanting to build my own cars and race my own cars. And she did that well after, she was still managing it well after I left to move to North Carolina. Certainly for a few years. At least that's my recollection of it all.
couldn't stay away, huh? Just, the other ones didn't get my,
No, they did.
did they?
Yeah. Tom, we get all my work.
No, sometimes things leave without getting coated.
Well,
If the customer wants to put it together. Why they would want to do that initially, I have no idea. You want to first? About that long? Sure. I'll say this is a lot of Oh, like that. Yeah. How'd you lower extremities doing? Your feet and everything else? Good. How are yours? So far, so good.
It's just a guy that I'm dragging a transmission from here to Loudon for him. I will. I absolutely will. And I have them there, but it won't. There's no way. I don't have the pieces made to adapt the left rear motor mount and left rear strut mount to the older cars yet.
It happens.
Okay.
It's hitting somewhere. Alright, how's your drive shaft look there? Still got to go. We're trying to aim it to the center of the drive shaft loop. It needs to go to the left side of the car. Chuck Atkins. I was born in Hickory, North Carolina. North Carolina's always been my home. I think I built my first car, or helped my uncle build my first car when I was about 15 or 16.
Did you have your own shop prior to working here?
I still do today. I build OEM chassis dirt cars. Yeah, it ain't gonna work that way. Why? Because you're as far this way as you can be on these motor mounts over here. Yeah, but would the front just pivot? No, because you're bottomed out back here. You see what I'm saying? In the center of that. Huh? And I drilled in the center of that. Like both of these are up against the, this way as far as they can go. Like I can't. It's as far as it can go that way. That's what's holding it. Like you got movement over here. But like we can't do it, we can't turn it this way because of that hole's bottomed out back there in the back.
Someone told me you have an interesting background and maybe a little moonlighting gig. Do you want to tell us what that was?
Growing up as a kid, my uncle, my dad used to take us to the wrestling matches over in Charlotte, and so I mean that was always something that caught my attention. And then as I got older, I refereed. I was a referee at some of the local high school, programs that some of the more local organizations would put on shows and stuff like that, and they'd need referees. So I, knew the right person that got me involved, and so it just kind of blossomed from there. I did it a few times and really enjoyed it, and that's kind of the extent of that. Yeah, I'd go at least 250 on it, if you can. Let's see what it measures. I'd do both of them that way. Let's see what it measures right there. A 7.5. Center of the crank. For whatever reason, this thing's sitting in here cattywampus. It is. That I don't. Hey, you need another spacer back there. You only have one. So I need this other 1/4 inch spacer? Yeah. So that straightens the tail shaft up, right? Where it needs to be?
Yep.
Okay, the bad news is you're a whole hole off down here on the bottom.
Is the bolt not through it?
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. The hole is a hole, you know what I'm saying? The hole,
Yeah.
hole width to the side. Like I said, it's just kind of knowing the right person. A buddy of mine had his own, you know, local promotion, and so, you know, I just showed up and a little bit here and there, some a little bit of training through those guys and some of the other referees and things, and so it was definitely a learning. You had to go through the learning curve, but it wasn't too bad. I did okay. In other words, that hole needed to come back another half an inch.
Okay, but you got 1/8 of an inch up here.
No, you know what I'm saying?
I know, I see where your hole at right here.
Yeah, the hole's up here, the bolt's back here.
So if you went out this way, it would help it.
It's got to go
This way.
It's supposed to go that way.
Forwards.
Yep.
And in your opinion, who is the best wrestler ever?
Oh, it's Ric Flair. I mean, there's no doubt. No doubt Ric Flair is the greatest of all time.
When I originally started here, we were Crooks Racing at the time, which was a Port City dealer. I did all the sales, car sales, things like that. When we transitioned into Port City, I kept doing the same line of thing, which was what my background was. I've done parts for 35 years now. As we grew here, it was very hard to keep the shop flow going. So I'm transitioning into helping Gary and everybody else out with car builds. We manufacture a lot of parts ourselves. So I do all the work orders, all the ordering for the laser cut pieces and things that the guys need to weld together, get them to powder coating, and try to coordinate that type of thing to keep the shop flow going. I just had talked to this guy here. He gave me that measurement for that tab.
Okay.
2 inches from the hoop, but I couldn't even tell you what kind of angle to put it on.
2 inches like back from the
He
hoop?
said if you go from the back of the hoop to the tabs, 2 inch. And don't forget the oil tank spud on this thing.
Yeah, okay.
Many more new builds than repairs. Usually clip repairs, we do quite a few during the winter, and this was probably an average year, but the new car sales for this year has kind of taken us by surprise, to be honest. It's quite a bit more than what it's been in years past, and a lot of them are cars that take bodies, not just chassis. So it's a longer process than just turning a chassis out. A chassis takes us about a week, but a car can take months depending on how it is in line. I think the hood, the nose, the fender.
Yeah, I would definitely
get rid of
leave the
that
nose and
fender.
hood,
That
but
door I think is okay.
This
The door bar has to change, and the rocker's got to change. Yeah, supply chain things have definitely been a struggle. Purchasing on the parts side has been, we try to help them out as much as we can in knowing quality substitutions or other avenues to look for things. Material wise, some of our vendors like machine shops, laser cutters, things like that, if metals are in a short supply. So that stuff kind of takes longer. For us, like an upper A-frame, for example, well, there's a bunch of machine shop pieces there that we need to get those in, then they get welded together, then they get sent to powder coating, and it comes back and gets assembled. Just one upper control arm is touched by many people, and it probably takes 6 different vendors to get all of that, all the pieces to make just that one product. We're fortunate enough here in this area to have some really quality people with a lot of experience, which helps out because when they get here, they can kind of just keep the flow going. And that's kind of what I've been doing this for so long now that I can kind of try to help that. When a chassis starts with Eric, I make sure that Dustin's ready for it to do interior as soon as it comes off the jig, goes to powder coating, and while we shuffle that around, there's still only so many man hours, to go around. So to not hold them up at all, we'll shuffle things around to keep that going. But when cars come back, like assembly wise, that's usually a hold up. And we've been on the lookout for some more people along those type of lines to help this process out. And I said, as we grow, because it's just going to continue to keep going this way, I'm sure.
Given our location in the world, are you kind of shocked that we can't find more skilled crafts people?
Absolutely. I think people either in this industry, they either have NASCAR dreams or they've done it. Like myself, I did that for a long time. Had enough of it for sure. Wanted to go back to what I enjoyed. So you either have to have somebody like that who has a lot of knowledge and experience that wants to do it at this level, or the other thing is sometimes people will learn at this level and then try to move on until they realize that maybe that's not what they wanted to do or something like that. But I would have thought we would have almost been flooded with it. And just like talking to some other people in this area, it just isn't the case. So the workforce is definitely been a struggle. So. Yeah, I think a regular one with the bottom leg cut off is what he has to do. But I don't know if cars went on that aluminum thing or not. With it being damaged, it had to come off regardless. So I'll have him pull this off and pull all that off before he cuts. That way it's kind of out of the way. But, when I started here with Crooks, so we would get the chassis from Michigan, from Port City, put them together, and we sold a few chassis a year. I'm not quite sure, that's 5-6 years ago now to remember. Now it's a kind of a whole different world. You get it right from the initial get-go. So I order all the steel, all the laser cut pieces for a chassis. It comes out of the tubing rack. The guys bend it and notch it, and even some of that stuff, we have really refined our processes down to getting a lot of computer stuff bent. The laser cut stuff we expand all the time, just that the quality is that much more. The parts are repeatable. Jig fixtures are always getting added on. The new phase 2 jig is completely different from what we have done before. When you do it long enough, you can kind of see what you have to do to help yourself out and speed up the processes with keeping the quality the same. We always have strived to really make it as nice of a piece as you can. If somebody looks at a car, you want them to kind of be blown away, and now I think we've even taken that to a whole nother level.